If I'm falling asleep. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I feel like it's been a really long time since I've done a mukbang, so I'm really excited to be doing another one again. This is actually a requested video for multiple reasons. The first thing being I got a request to do my part 3 to my China Storytime series. If you haven't seen my other two, I will link them down below. And the second reason is that I got a request to do a sushi mukbang. So I got some vegan sushi at this restaurant called Veggie Eats. I've been there a few times on my channel before, and I've gotten their food a few times on my channel, but I didn't know for a really long time that they had sushi. And so once I found out they had sushi, I just had to try it. So I got 4 of their rolls. I got their crunchy spinach roll, their caterpillar roll, their rainbow roll, and their avocado roll. So I'm really excited for those. And then I also have some vegan mochi. I have some taro mochi and some black sesame mochi that I'm really excited for. So, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm gonna go ahead and start with, the avocado roll. And then I also have some soy sauce here to dip it in. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've had sushi. I think it's been like 7 years, maybe 8. It's been so long. Oh my goodness. The sushi also came with some wasabi that I don't know if I'm gonna eat. Don't get me wrong, I love wasabi. I love wasabi. But I don't know if I feel like crying today, but I'm gonna try anyway. I love wasabi, especially wasabi flavored things. So good. And I also have some pickled ginger here too. That is so good. So if you're looking for a really good Vietnamese or Thai place that's vegan, go to Veggie Eats because it's really, really good. I've never had a bad thing there, I don't think. Highly recommend. No. Okay, I'm gonna start on the story time, or part 3. So part 3 is the 3rd apartment that we lived in China. And this apartment, it was near this pond that had actually several ponds, but one of them had rocks around it, and we would always climb on these rocks, and it was so cool. It was like a fantasy dream. It was one of the coolest areas, and near this area, and a lot of other areas in the neighborhood too, but this is the area where I'd usually pick some purple flowers that had, I think they were purple honeysuckles, so they had honey in them. And so I'd pick them and suck the honey out of it, and then if you opened up the flower and took the middle part, you could take out like the, I don't even know what it was, but it looked like a mini toothbrush, and so we'd call them pixie toothbrushes, and it was the most magical thing ever. Yeah, I had just a blast in China. It was so much fun. We meaning me and my siblings, we would always come up with fantasy games and things like that because it was such a beautiful area that we lived in. There was so much space, so much grass, and oh, it was so pretty. So, one of the neighborhoods across from our last apartment, it had this huge area. I don't know what it was because it wasn't a parking lot, but it kind of looked like it, but it was like a huge section of sidewalk it looked like, and then there was this huge building. I know at one point there was a store connected to it, but then they changed that to a restaurant, so I'm not exactly sure what that place was. It might have been a hotel, I don't know, but on the right side of it, they had this huge ramp that my siblings and I would always bring our bikes to, and we would go to the very top and zoom down the ramp, and it was so much fun. And it also had these ledges on the side of it, and we would sit on there many times just to hang out with friends and talk to each other. It was one of like our hangout spots. So when my siblings and I talk about China and we say the ramp, we all know what we're talking about. Okay, now I'm gonna try the rainbow roll. I'm not exactly sure what's in this one. It might be their vegan tuna, avocado, and cucumber. I think it's their vegan tuna that they make out of tofu. It's good. Not as good as the avocado roll, but it's still good. I like the cucumber in there. It's kind of a refreshing aspect. That's really good. I also have some water. Okay. Also on this ramp, or in the area where it kind of looked like a parking lot, it was just this big area of cement. We could see this area from our apartment building. We had a balcony in our apartment. And you could see that area from one of our balconies. So many mornings, I would go out there, and there would be this huge group of Chinese people, and they would be doing Tai Chi, which is, I guess you could call it a form of yoga almost, but they like all stand together, kind of lined up, and they have this routine where they like slowly do these forms. Like, you've probably seen it. If not, you can look up videos on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that they have it, but we would see that almost every morning, and it's like their form of exercise and meditation, and it is so cool, and I loved watching them do that. I never did it myself, but I think now it would be something that I would really like to do because I like yoga, so I think that it would be a similar thing to that, but I'm really interested to see if there's like a class or something here that I could take. I don't think there's any Tai Chi places here, but that would be really cool if there were. Oh no, it totally fell apart. Okay, I'm going to try some of the mochi. So I'm going to try a taro mochi first. That's really good. And I think I've had these black sesame ones before, and I remember really liking them. They may have been a different brand, I don't know. That is so good. So, in our last apartment, there were people who lived across the hall from us. They were also foreigners. Because I don't want to say their names just for their identity's sake. I mean, I don't think it really matters, but just in case, we're gonna call them Tessa and Frank. Tessa and Frank, they were like, we knew them as Tessa and Frank. Tessa, I think she had some Asian in her. She was part Asian, and she would constantly be making these really good breads. I don't know how she made them. They were like these Asian bao bread things. They were so good, and she would always let us have some. So every night I was always like, Mom, can I go to Tessa and Frank's house? And she's like, no, you keep eating their food. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, that's the whole point. But it was so good. Anyway, there was one time I went to their house, and we were playing in her son's bedroom, I think. I was with my two younger brothers. I think it was Japheth and Isaac. but I think Japheth was like 5, 6 maybe. And so I was the oldest one in the room, and the door got shut and locked. The lock was on the inside, but it was stuck and I could not get it open. And one of my biggest fears when I was younger was getting locked in a room. So I was freaking out. I was making my brother scared because I was freaking out. She had keys to this room, but I had them in the room with me and I couldn't get them under the door. I was freaking out. Then she's like, okay, I'm gonna go downstairs. Mind you, we were on the 19th floor. She said, I'm gonna go downstairs and you're gonna drop the keys from the window of the bedroom and I'll catch them and then I'll come back up. And I was like, no, but what if it gets caught in a tree? What if you can't find the keys? So basically I was stuck in there for a few minutes, meaning like maybe 10. Could not get the door open, was absolutely freaking out. And then I finally was like, okay, I have this feeling that I should just try the lock again. And so I did, and I was like nudging it, and I finally got it open, and I was like, yes, I am the magic queen. I was so proud of myself. Anyway, so that's a very memorable time. We love Tessa and Frank. They're the greatest. I love Mochi. I think I prefer ice cream mochi over mochi, but mochi is still really, really good. Okay, now I'm gonna try the caterpillar roll. I'm not sure what's in this one either. Oh, I think it's cucumber and something else, and it has avocado on top. I think they already doused this in soy sauce. I think that's the best roll yet. No. That's not soy sauce. It's thicker. I don't know what sauce that is, but it's really good. It's kind of sweet. They didn't have descriptions on the rolls, so I don't know what's in them. All I know is that they're vegan, because this is a 100% vegan place. This one's really good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's this park that we used to live next to. We weren't super close, but we were in walking distance. We could walk there. And it's called Century Park. Kind of like Central Park. At this park, it was huge. They had a bonsai garden, I guess you could call it, and they had these bikes that you could rent out. They had this one where you could fit 3 people in the front and 3 people in the back, and then you'd pedal. I think the 2 people in the front on the right and left would pedal. And it had a basket in the front, and there were tandems and just all different kinds of bikes that you could rent out and ride around the park. There was a pond, an area with flowers that we would pick. It was one of the funnest places to go to. We would go there quite frequently, and we would always rent out the bikes. Like, that was a must. We had to rent out the bikes. But on our way there, we would stop by the store, and at the store we would always get snacks, and it was so much fun. For example, I don't know if you've seen them before. I'll pop a picture on the screen, but we would get these chocolate mushroom cracker things all the time. They were like the best thing. We always wanted them, and so we'd get some of those sometimes. We would get drinks. We would get sarsaparilla. They had sarsaparilla there. One of the most common drinks we would get there is this drink called Scream, and this drink, I kid you not, was the best drink I've ever had in my entire life. It was so good, and I don't know where to find it, and I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was so, so good. And they have like these, like, it's a squirty bottle, so we'd always go I just remember them so well. And there was a green one and a blue one, and we loved those drinks, so we'd always get those. We'd go to the park. Oh, at the store we would also get buns. So they had scallion buns, which are called, I think, like hua huan or something like that. And we get a bunch of other like red bean buns and baozus and so many different kinds of buns and things like that. Oh my gosh, they were so good. And the scallion buns, my sisters and I would always be like, it's lambus bread from the Lord of the Rings, because it was so good. And so we'd always get that and pretend that it was lambus bread. That was really fun. And there was one time at the park that my sister and I got a 3-person bike. When we were riding around, we're like, okay, we're gonna all stand up at the same time. 1, 2, 3. And so we all stood up and we went, yeah. And then we fell. Like, what did we think was gonna happen? It was so funny though. I remember I got a scrape on my leg, but then we were all kind of laughing about it. I think it was mostly just embarrassing. That was a really, really fun time. The next thing is a restaurant we used to go to called Huoguo, or Hot Pot. This is probably one of the funnest memories ever. We would take everybody to Huoguo when they came to visit. It was a very big thing for our family. So, Huoguo, or hot pot, is basically, there's a big bowl at the center of the table that it's constantly cooking. At the restaurant we went to, their tables had built-in fire, so it was constantly cooking the soup or liquid in the bowl. It was usually vegetable broth or chicken broth. Yes, I know, not vegan, but I wasn't vegan at the time, okay? There was different things in it already, like ginger and just different herbs and spices to give it flavor. And then we would order different types of things on the menu, and they would bring these things out, not cooked yet. Things like fish balls, I think. They were like fish meat, potato wedges, and cabbage, just so many different things. And then you'd put them in the pot, let them cook, and then they would keep cooking. And then once they were cooked, you could take them out and eat them, and then throw in more things to let them cook and then eat them. It's such a fun thing to do with a big group of people. Also, you had this like peanut and soy sauce dip you could make. Like there was a bar where you could go get some peanut stuff, because a lot of the food there tastes really good with peanut sauce. So that was so good. And I remember one of the times, actually, I have two stories. One time, we got live shrimp, and one of them jumped at Maylee, and she just PTSD. Anyway, that was funny. Sorry, Maylee. Then another time, we actually got a whole pig's brain. That's all I'm gonna say, because my channel's vegan, and I don't want to gross any of you out. So, yeah, that's that. Anyway, so Huoguo was it was just an amazing restaurant. It was so much fun. And we also, oh my gosh, for drinks, we'd get our own little Fanta and Sprite bottles. And those were so fun. So next to our third apartment, we were near a few little shops, and one of them was called Family Mart. This shop we would go to all the time. They had refrigerated hamburgers. Like the whole hamburger was refrigerated in this package, and then you could buy it, and you could even ask them to warm it up for you in a microwave, or you could take it home and microwave it. That's so gross. But I remember I always wanted to buy that because we would never get food like that in China, because we'd always have rice and different dishes with the rice and fried rice and soups and things like that and noodles and all of that, but we never got fast food, so I always wanted to get one of those. And Family Mart had so many things. They had like these like the fish balls I mentioned earlier. They had those on a stick in a cup in soup, so it was a cup of soup with those things in it, and we'd always get those, and they were super hot, and so when it was cold outside, we'd get those and then eat them outside, and it would warm us up. It was such a fun experience. They also had things like mantos. There was this layered cake thingy. It wasn't a cake, but it was like a bread, a sweet bread, and it was layered and it was yellow and white. That was really good. They had a manto that was like an herb and nut or seed manto, and at the time I hated things like that, and so I called it the toilet roll because it looked like a toilet, like being flushed. Child things. But those were so good. Like the original mantos and even the wheat mantos were good. When we first moved there, though, the Family Mart was originally called the Marché, and that was probably within the first 2 years that we lived there. We'd go to the Marché a few times. I was probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6, but then we'd continue to go there later on in our years being there. But that's when I very first had a haichu. And we didn't see haichus here in America before China. So I'm pretty sure haichus originated in China, so those are OG. Oh my gosh, there was also this place called the Super Brand Mall, and this place was like, it was huge. Hold on, I'm gonna try the spinach roll real quick. So this is the crunchy spinach roll. I think they fry the spinach. Oh my gosh, that's by far my favorite one. That texture. My favorite. So good. Okay. Like I was saying before, there's this place called the Super Brand Mall, and this place was huge. So many levels. It was this big fat building. It had lots of stores inside and, you know, a mall. There was one floor, oh my gosh, we would always get Burger King. And then I think on the same floor there was a Toys R Us. That's where we went Christmas shopping a lot of the time. And then on the floor above there was this place called Tom's World, and it was like a kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese, but it had little rides and like arcade games that you could do. That place, I always wanted to go there. That was my home. Like, I wanted to live there. There was also on the, I think the top floor was the theater. They had a movie theater up there, and that's where I first watched, I think, the 6th Harry Potter movie, because it came out there. Like, I watched all the Harry Potter movies. I watched all of them in China, I think. Yeah, anyway, Harry Potter was like huge there. They had models and stuff. Actually, my sisters and I and my brother, we did modeling at one point. Maybe I'll talk about that in another video. But a lot of their themes were like Harry Potter. They were really into Harry Potter there. So they had a theater, and that's why I watched the 6th one. And I remember, I think it was while they were building the theater, when we first moved there, they had this area where it looked like a parking garage, but it was not that. It was just, they were still building something, and it had these columns, like several columns, and it was a big space. And I remember there were a few times that we went there, my dad would chase us, and he'd chase us around the columns, and he'd be like, oh, I'm the monster, and like things like that. Oh my gosh. Those memories when my dad would play like chase with us, oh, those were so fun. So if you want to get scared in a game of chase, play with my dad. Sorry, Dad, I love you. But yeah, that was the Superman Mall. So much fun. An amazing place to go to. There was also this place that we went to with our family when they visited, and even when our family didn't visit, we'd go there too, and it's this place called Tiger Hill. I think I've mentioned it previously, but we went there quite a few times. They had little stores there and little street vendors. So pretty. It was like a, I don't even know how to explain it. It was kind of foresty, and it looked like an ancient kingdom. It was so cool. The street vendors would sometimes sell like this baked tofu with this sweet mayo sauce on top, which was scarily addicting because I didn't like mayo ever in my life, even as a kid. But that was so good. And the street vendors also did like roasted chestnuts and things like that, and those were so good. And we would spend like the whole day at Tiger Hill sometimes. And then, oh my gosh, the highlight, well, not the highlight, but if we didn't do this within our time living in China, I would have smacked my whole family in the face. But we did it, so it's okay. Some of my cousins came to visit, and we took an overnight train to Beijing. And then my dad, he thought he ordered 2 vans to get us to the Great Wall, but it ended up being a party bus. He got a freaking big bus for us to rent out for the day. He was not expecting that, but that's what we got. So we had this huge bus to court us around. We went to the Great Wall of China, which was beautiful and amazing. It was so cool. And then we went to the Forbidden City, and I touched one of the golden things on the wall that are supposed to give you good luck. Those were really fun times. I loved that. Like, I finally went to like this iconic place that a lot of people know about, and I'm so grateful I got the opportunity to go, because that would have been really sad if I didn't end up going there while I lived there. It was so much fun. And it was so pretty. This pickled ginger is so good. Oh my gosh, there was this restaurant called Ajisan. Ajisan noodles. So good. I would either get their fried rice, or they had this rice and fried chicken dish that you could get, and I loved that dish. And we always went there with my dad. If we went with my dad to work, which it was a long way to get there, and then he'd end up needing to spend the night. I think it was somebody rented out an apartment for like the coworkers that worked at his job, and they needed to stay there. I don't know why. I probably should have asked him, but I wasn't planning on talking about this. It just came out. I digress. We would go with him to his work sometimes, and our lunch break, we would go to Ajisan noodles. And it was so good. I loved it, and that was always the place we went to for lunch. And then we would go back to work, and I would work on like my homeschooling stuff that I had to do while my dad worked. And we would pass notes back and forth. I actually still have some of them. I don't know where they are, but I kept them because when I was a kid, I loved writing notes to people. But when it was around dinner time, we would leave and we'd get Burger King or McDonald's and we'd go to the apartment that he was staying in. We'd watch Indiana Jones. And I remember this apartment specifically had like color themed rooms, and I always wanted to stay. I think it was in the pink room. I don't remember. I think there's a pink room and an orange room. I don't remember. Oh well, but it was really cool, and I remember it specifically because of the colored rooms. And then the next morning, we'd wake up. Some of the other co-workers had left food in the apartment that we were welcome to, some of which being like sugary cereal, which I never got in China. And I was like, are those Cocoa Pebbles? I'm eating those right now. And so I always looked forward to that. Oh my gosh, those are such good memories. Mm. I think I've also had a peanut flavor from this brand. It was weird. So don't get the peanut flavor. It really, like, I had high expectations for it, which I shouldn't have because it tasted really weird. I've also had red bean. I think I've had a red bean flavor from them. So good. So I need to end off. I need to talk about like the coolest thing when we lived in China. A lot of the toddlers there would wear really interesting outfits. Their parents would make them wear full body pieces sometimes. And a lot of the toddlers would have things that we would call split bottom pants. It was on my list, so I'm going to talk about it. So what split bottom pants are, they would have pants that had a split in the back, so they didn't have to take off their pants to go potty. So yeah, fully exposed. Anyway, that was interesting. But yeah, I thought I would share that. Have you picture some of the culture. But yeah, that was the last thing. And I'm going to finish this last mochi. This mukbang was so good. I love authentic dishes. That crunchy spinach roll was so good. Alright guys, that is the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed this story time, and I really hope you enjoyed the food that I picked out. Thank you guys for all your requests. I really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I'm going to do something that I really shouldn't do.